Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of What If Civilization Started Over. We are now on episode 20. In the last episode, we saw a multitude of events occur, such as the complete filling in of the world map, or at least what they know of. Some areas like in Russia or China have this weird line thing that is disputed borders. We also saw a civil war in Papua New Guinea, or the second civil war, I should say. And that's all I can remember. So if you enjoyed today's episode of What If Civilization Started Over, make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get started. So the first thing we're going to be doing is coming to the Alliance layer. I haven't really done this a lot recently, or talked about them a lot recently, but why not start again? So we'll actually be seeing a couple new nations joining up with alliances, such as Sumatra joining up with the Circle Alliance. Once Sumatra has joined, Borneo, the Central Indonesian island nation, and Western Indo-New Guinea will all join with the Circle Alliance. As specifically these two nations here joined with the Circle Alliance, we see the or this nation joins the squares, and we end up seeing these other two joining with the square alliance. And as the green team is in square alliance, the purple team will join the circle alliance. But of course, this won't be the only spot we see countries joining alliances. As up here, we see Greenland will join with the Square Alliance. And down here, all five of these post-Dutch Empire or post-Dutch Empire nations will join the Square Alliance as well. And finally, for the big one, Germany will lastly be joining the Square Alliance. Germany is the whole reason Germany exists is because of the Square Alliance. Most of you guys probably already figured that out on your own, but it is completely true, and especially for Switzerland was the main supplier and the one who organized the whole rebellion thing. But we'll actually be staying by Switzerland. As, as Switzerland declares war and very quickly invades the Swiss nation, or the Alpine nation. Soon after invading, their capital is almost completely captured. Eventually, it is captured, and the nation is forced into full annexation. Capital removed, and the alliance removed. And after this event happens, Italy will in turn declare war on Switzerland, and this will be the starting move of World War I. This is because, or this is mainly because, like, that Alp nation was like almost like a roadblock between the two nations, and it was supposed to be kept that way. That was like part of the whole reason it existed. But we see Italian troops entering into Switzerland, cutting off this panhandle. Soon after the war is declared, we see the German team invades into the Dutch team, which is still quite shaken up from their civil war, and I would definitely see why. Alright, turning on saves real quick, and I'm gonna turn off the lights. Oops, that won't happen. Alright, actually, so we see a couple different or a couple different fights happening. I actually see West France is able to invade into the Swiss nation. However, they won't be able to capture any major cities. In Iberia, it's at first nothing happens, and then it goes really poorly for two of the nations and extremely well for the other two. Catalonia, yeah, they just said Gibraltar's like gone. Almost immediately, all of Gibraltar is captured, excluding colonies, but even if we include colonies, yeah, Catalonia has already captured all this. As for the Portuguese nation, yeah, it's not any better. All of this is already lost, including their capital. And I should probably make this a bit brighter. Alright, it's not the only place we see the Galicians invading, as up in North America, with the supply of Catalonian, a very small amount of Swiss, and South Chinese troops, they will almost instantly be able to make a spearhead up and cut the northern French colony in two. I know this war's being rushed, but I don't want a repeat of the past two times where something dumb has happened when I've been recording and it just either didn't save part of it or just completely crushed me in recording. I definitely didn't get completely upset and nearly throw my computer about. Anyway, um, we see the Galicians will eventually be able to capture this major city in the north. And, it's pretty much just because like it's really hard for West France to get troops up here. Even still, it's like hard just to get. A big part is because like the whole only known routes over there are just like you gotta pass by Galicia and Catalonia, which they hate you, or you gotta pass by Greenland, they hate you. So like there's not really any good way to go. You also probably could go around this way, but I don't think it's gonna work well. So yeah, there's like nowhere to go. So it's they can't really supply these areas here. So pretty much this happens. The entire northern part here will just fall over. And we see the Galicians begin their invasion into the um into North France. Eventually Denmark will do nothing and Greenland is actually gonna be the one invading over here. I'm just gonna use Greenland as the color for over here, just because like it's mostly Greenland doing the work. Greenland's actually like extremely strong for what they are. Like they're able to capture over all of this from a top 30 power. and they themselves are probably a top 30 power. They have a really strong military. They're relatively well advanced, at least for this time, and they have a pretty good economy, especially dealing with trade. So we see all of these islands around here are captured as well, but it becomes a bit harder once they start getting too deep. Eventually, we see Galicia is able to capture almost pretty much all of this, and it's it's just not going to go well at all. Down here in South America, there's practically like no hope, as this is what's already captured this time. And for Gibraltar, it's actually going a bit better, as they have only lost four major cities of the five they have. Okay, so maybe it's not going better for them. But yeah, I don't know if it's going better for between these two. You also can't forget that that happened. And we also see Catalonia now starting to invade into the Dark Cyan team. Nah, you thought North France would be left alone? Dead wrong. Just dead wrong. However, there is actually some success down here, as almost yeah, all of this is captured by Portugal, and the rest is captured by France. So maybe you've got something good going for you guys. Otherwise, the Circle Alliance really has almost nothing going good for them, other than their invasion of Switzerland. Because now North France begins their invasion, and is able to almost instantly take over two major cities. You can see Italy begin invading into Austria, Czechia nation. Not really sure what to call it. Yeah, all of this is taken over. However, we do see Yugoslavia is like kind of just forgotten about, and they're able to capture over three major cities. So maybe don't forget about Yugoslavia. Down in Greece, it's not much better, and they're actually like Yugoslavia is like even stronger than Greenland would be. Yugoslavia is probably the 21st strongest power. There's three contenders for 21st, and then they'd be 22nd, 23rd as well. That's Galicia, North France, and Yugoslavia. Whoops. But every uprising will have its downfall. As Galicia, not Galicia, okay, Yugoslavia has lost almost all of their colony, and yeah, it, Italy's invading now. It's done. Yugoslavia just like says, "Oh, we're cooked. You guys can have it," and just gives it over to Greece. Over in Western Africa, it's still not going well at all. for these nations. They've got their one good thing, and all good things must come to an end as we finally see the post-Dutch nation, or post-Dutch colony countries invade and capture all of this. We then see these two nations invade up into Italy, and we also see them invade into, or we see this blue nation invading into parts parts of the Italian colony and parts of over here in Greece. So overall, one side is definitely winning because like the other side has three front lines where they're actually having a spot of success. That's like some of the Italian front line, just really the Swiss front line, and then right here. But this itself is also like coming to an end as every day Catalonia gets more and more and more land from here, and yeah, while all this is happening, we see it's a completely one-sided war over here. Strange. See the yellow team with all its forces from just like overall, probably these three nations together would probably be like the 15th strongest nation. And yeah, I definitely think one nation is stronger than the other, or one side is stronger than the other. Over here, we is like biggest spot for Circle Team victory. Although even still, Blue Australia is like soloing down here. Central China is doing nothing, and I mean they've got to deal with North China, so I definitely see why. We see Russia begins their invasion of Lake Baikal, and I don't think it's going too well for Lake Baikal. Okay, maybe it's not going to go well for Russia. Siberia will join up with the Square Alliance. Who saw that coming? And overall, Siberia is probably like was probably the biggest ally of the Square Alliance. Um, yeah. So Siberia will begin their own invasion of this land, of Russia specifically. Since like a lot of Russian troops are south, they'll be able to capture a major city and probably the largest encirclement that's ever happened. Takes place in like a little under a month as these troops move quickly. They then branch out to capture a couple major cities and work their way towards this third one. At this point, the news hasn't even gotten to these guys yet. Eventually, all of this Russian land is captured, and a decent chunk of Lake Baikal is freed, I guess, if you want to call it that. All of this land here is returned to Lake Baikal. However, Russians still have a decently large presence right there. However, as this like all really happens while it's starting, uh, China is able to capture over all of this land here, But then once Siberia joins the war, we see yeah, especially like right in here, it's just a massive spearhead. It's like piercing right through the nation. Did we see that before? These stranded Russian troops, um, it's just getting worse and worse for them every day. They have no supply at this point, like they have no supplies, and yeah, they'll be like split up into these like different groups, some of them smaller than others. But like, if you want to define cooked, these guys are worse than that. For Korea, um, they're very familiar with this terrain, so yeah, especially like this here. Yep, that's theirs. They'll meet up with Lake Baikal very rapidly, and we actually see West or East Siberia is going to claim over all of this, which means Lake Baikal will get that land back, and yeah, somebody over here is cooked. All right, I very highly doubt anybody saw this coming. Yeah, South China and Central China unionize and just begin shoving their forces into China, especially over right in here. And all of this is the captured land. And the last time the Chinese capital was encircled, it didn't go well for them. It was that China's actually having success against these nations? Like, oh, it's short-lived. Never mind. As pretty much they invade, and then their capital is captured. And once their capital is captured, they surrender. And yeah, nope. And now you have Lake Baikal, which they're just focusing here, a decent chunk of East Siberia, Korea, and South China versus the Japanese Union. Um, yeah, I think somebody's cooked. So, the Japanese Union will sink into the ocean, just like it in almost every Ada's Pro videos. No, I'm just kidding. What they will do is be just completely captured over by Korea. I think that's fair. Except for these northern parts, which will go over to Siberia. Up in uh, this area, groups are getting even smaller now. A couple of them even fully disappearing, and it's not going well for Russia. In Australia, we see Sumatra is actually like the leading power down here. Um, they're stronger than a couple of these nations. South China just does nothing with this colony. Um, yeah, it just doesn't. It goes pretty well for Sumatra as they're able to invade into the the Swiss colony, and I mean this is also being helped out by France. But looking at the power rankings, Sumatra's stronger than West France, but nonetheless, West France is actually going to do the final blow for this area. They will, we do see Switzerland holding on to Tasmania, but up in the north here, it's still not going well at all. We do see this nation begin to hold out on this island again. Seems like this is their safe spot. They should probably just move their capital there. And they will do exactly that. They will place their capital on this island. There's no major city there, but it's still be there. Alright. At this point, they're probably just gonna become a micronation. Alright. Now that these guys are out of the way, just go straight for the capital down here. That doesn't last long at all. I mean, you've got a top 16 power versus what? Probably in the top 50, maybe? Maybe not even. I mean, they just had a civil war themselves. The only country that's really able to hold out on the square team over here, other than like South China, is the Northern Australians. And they're actually like just destroying the Sumatrans. I mean, yeah, most Sumatran army is like here, as they've like captured the entire Swiss colony and a very decent portion of the Catalonian colony down here. Like, so maybe it is actually gonna be like two. It's a two-sided, one-sided war. If that makes sense. In some areas, it's just completely or most areas, it's just completely one-sided, and then in others, it's two-sided. I mean, we've already seen like the collapse of most areas, and here we have some breaking news. Catalonia, along with Galicia, Germany, and Denmark, will unveil something. There was a major meeting hosted in this major city between four nations to discuss something that will remain private for a couple days, and then Germany invades Switzerland. But is it just Germany? Definitely not. Okay. I chose the exact same color. Okay. So, Germany will invade Switzerland, but they will also invade Italy, Catalonia. They'll send their forces into West France, and they themselves will also send forces into Switzerland with the help of Galicia. They'll be able to capture the entire Mediterranean coast, which will also be leading to this happening. And just days after this happens, two more major events happen at roughly the same time. The Swiss capital is captured, and North France will continue moving into Italy. Italy will also be meeting up with this invasion. Then another meeting is hosted in Greece to discuss something. And this meeting is hosted by the meeting is hosted by Greece, and invited is Galicia, Catalonia, West France, North France, Germany, this Czechia nation, Yugoslavia, and Denmark, and discussed in this treaty. Well, alright, so I guess this happens now. Multiple landings are made across Switzerland, or not Switzerland, across Italy, and then let's see. Oh yeah, we then have Yugoslavia. They make 3 landings capturing these 3 major cities. And let's see. Oh, Yugoslavia also withdraws from Greece. Oops. And then Greece themselves will also make a landing in Italy. 3 of them. First being in southern Italy, the other being in the heel of Glute, and the last one being in Sicily. And these 3 will all meet up. Got right here. And I think we probably should go into detail about what's going on here. So while I do something else that I'll also explain afterwards, um, what's going on? So these nations here are all the invited nations to these meetings are part of either the circle or the square alliance, or part of. All of these nations are also leaving the alliances. So, what had happened was in the meeting in Catalonia, they discussed, like, okay, so we're spending all our troops, all our resources to fight these nations, and we're not even doing it for us. We're doing it because the Swiss decided to invade into the um, Alpine nation, and that's the reason World War I started. As for the Greek meeting, Greece says, no, it's not Switzerland's fault. Ish. It's Italy. We declared war on the Swiss after that had happened. And that's when World War I started. So the two groups kind of like argued about who started World War I, both blaming their own side. I don't know but if you ask me, that sounds kind of weird. Um, but yeah, I mean, it is weird. So after that happens, we see, okay, so both leaders of either side have had their capitals captured by North France, probably one of the weaker nations that exists over here. Germany captures over this land, and Czechia will return, or will get back that land. Oops. And we'll come back to alliances real quick. As a new alliance forms, the Cross Alliance, called it's just the anti-World War alliance, pretty much. Countries who once hated each other, destroyed trade routes through the other nations, they will come together as the Cross Alliance to put an end to World War I. And all that really takes is getting rid of these two nations, which is almost done. Eventually, we see other nations will join this alliance, but first, these nations will have to leave the other alliance that they are in, as it would be kind of controversial if they didn't. Alright. Some of them just leave the alliance overall. We do see these three nations here will join up with the Cross Alliance. However, Congo and the Angolan nation will kind of refrain from joining the Cross Alliance. So the Cross Alliance will consist of Galicia, the um, Gulf of Guinea nation, Nigeria, it's like Central African-ish sub-Saharan nation, Greece, Yugoslavia, Denmark, Germany, North Transvestite, Marty, Czechia, and the Great Empire. The Great Empire will join the Cross Alliance after secretly getting in, or like sending a spy into the meeting, and maybe they also sent some supplies to Yugoslavia. But what happens is, actually, I'll show you what happens. The Diamond Alliance is dissolved, and all members of it will join up with the Cross Alliance. This was kind of like told to the members before it happened, just to tell them this is gonna happen. Just if you guys are okay with it, and all of them definitely are because like, I didn't hint it to you before. I may or may not have stated that if a world war were to happen, and with specifically the Mercedes Economic Alliance, the whole world is going to go into collapse, or an economic collapse. Expect that. So, all of the Coast Diamond Alliance members will join up in the Cross Alliance, and the final invasion of World War One will begin. That's what it'll be called, Final Invasion. That kind of sounds cool. I don't know. North France will just steamroll over all of this land. Catalonia definitely helping out, especially with Italy, and especially the Italian colony. We actually see Yugoslavia will be getting their um, colony back, and uh, it already happened once, it'll happen again. Yugoslavia and Greece will form a union, being the Adriatic Sea Union. Two two nations, once just hatred towards the other, will unionize together for the sole purpose of destroying the starters of World War One. But it'll stay around for longer than that. And with this, World War One officially will come to an end. These the like weird borders all around the world, yeah, it's just gonna stay like that. The nations all across the world will agree to peace with one another as the start of the entire war has collapsed. And with this, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of What If Civilization Started Over. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.